Thank you, Vaidehi. Welcome, friends. There's an apology from Dr. Mahesh Verma. He's in the middle of a family emergency and had to travel to Ludhiana. We will miss him today, but we'll get him back some other time. Meher is facing some technical problems, so the tech team is actually helping her out now. I do hope they can resolve it. So, what made me think of this topic? It made me reflect on over my growing years and my youth about how many troubles, how many challenges the whole world has seen. And history has proved that we have been through worse situations. We've had the plague, we've had the world wars. The world wars gave us Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We had Chernobyl. We've had so many world calamities, the Great Depression. And back then, we were really ill equipped to deal with any of these challenges. Mainly because we were not as informed, we had lesser resources, we didn't have sophisticated technology. But yet, even back then, we emerged victorious. It makes me wonder why we can't do the same again. We are facing a challenge now, a pandemic which the world has never seen before. And history has proved that crises are periods of significant motivation, inspiration, innovation. There are people who raise up to leadership challenges and lead. It is documented that the rise of important innovations can be correlated to global crisis. We are surrounded by the pandemic news every day. There is so much negative news setting in the sense of fear, mistrust, and importantly, frustration. All of us, whatever age group, whichever socioeconomic criteria, whichever part of the world, we are all equally affected and going through the same problem everywhere. This kind of scale and magnitude of a challenge has never been seen before, in spite of all the challenges the world has seen earlier. Everybody is talking about the negative impact on society, on the country's economy, on the downside of the scenario. But I think to myself, enough is enough. So, with the thought, enough is enough, can I say that we did not create this situation? I'm not sure I can claim that we did not create this situation. That is debatable. There is a lot in the world that is happening now which we have created. But are we drawn into this critical situation? And are we going to only look at that we are going to get lemons in our life? Or should we look at it that can we make lemonade from the lemons? So let's talk about how we can lean on our strengths, create opportunities, and blaze new trails and become game changers instead of bystanders. So all of us here today, esteemed panelists, distinguished people, standing well respected with great experiences, I draw on you, I seek from you suggestions as to how we can take this situation forward and not allow ourselves to get bogged down anymore. We have been a part of this situation for more than 4 months. And in this world and in these times, I think we have more or less understood where we stand. So, from all of you, I would ask a question. And my first question to all my panelists would be, how do you see the coming months unfold? And what do you feel is the biggest strengths that will help us now to tide the situation? Just to remind you, most of our viewers are students, and we have a lot of a younger age faculty and staff, and of course, a lot of friends from all over the country. So I hand over to Dr. Sarasu Budde, and can we all have 10 minutes each to debate on or to understand where, how do we see the next few months unfolding from here? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Aruna Kataraji, for inviting on this very important topic and very important webinar, where we are in the midst of this pandemic situation, and everyone was closed down at their homes and for about 3 to 4 months. In different states of the country had different types of problems, not only in India, but across the globe. many countries had different types of challenges. There were very few countries who probably had no effect of this, but otherwise 80 to 90% of the nations have this effect of the pandemic. So this may be as big a phenomenon as that of World War I or World War II in one sense. And on the other side, whether it is plague which you referred to, or the exactly about 100 years ago, similar pandemic was there, and therefore there were huge number of deaths that time as well. So compared to all of this, with the technology being evolved, different types of drugs and medicines being available, we have been able to take care much better compared to the last century's problem which arose around exactly nearly 100 years ago. So having said this, whether this pandemic was man-made or natural, I think this is a debatable question, so we will not go into that. But nevertheless, once the problem is there, the challenge is there, we have to address it squarely. We cannot keep ourselves aloof from that, whether this country or that country for that matter. And therefore, we need to take precautions to avoid the spread of the disease or whatever you call viral infection. And that is why, whether it was lockdowns, whether it was social distancing norms, all of that which came into existence, including if you are going out somewhere, please wear the mask, use sanitizer, use your various soaps, etc. for cleaning your hands. I think all health related issues which were continuously told by the government, our people have followed them, and that's why probably we have had lesser cases compared to the population. I'm not saying the numbers are less, numbers have been quite significant, but compared to the population of our size, compared to the thick population, especially in the cities, I think the spread has been comparatively controlled actually. And then the challenges led to, especially since we are all in educational sector, I will deal with more about educational sector than the economy. Of course, economy is also badly affected. We all know that GDP has come down. The job losses are there. Workers who are working in cities have to travel a long distance either by train later, but in the beginning they wanted to walk away. And all of those challenges certainly did exist. Now, when it comes to the educational institutions, suddenly somewhere around the mid-March, this pandemic was visible that it is going to grow phenomenally, and therefore we have to take precautionary steps. And the government announced that all the institutions have to be closed and send back students to their respective villages, towns, wherever they are, and then the education suddenly came to a grinding halt. But on one side, we often say that learning is lifelong learning, education is lifelong, and making students not to continue to have education was not a right thing. Therefore, it was also suggested that you continue to have online classes. Now, there are three types of institutions who could transform, change immediately. Some of them having good infrastructure in terms of connectivity, the servers, the faculty being trained, they could easily, smoothly drive through this change or transformation that occurred, and the classes were held in an online mode. There were others who had some infrastructure, but faculty were not fully geared up. They took some time, and then they also graduated into the second domain of converting themselves into an online education mode, whether their own LMS systems, learning management systems, if they had one. If not, using some of the open source or commercial packages, people continued to have that. The third version, or the third variety, is the one which were badly affected, who did not have any wherewithal, and therefore those students have really been affected. Now coming back to even those institutions where all the infrastructure was there, faculty were trained, and they tried to give online lectures, the receiver, the one who had gone to their, his respective town or village, if there was no internet connectivity there, he could not access it. Even though the provision was made, he was not in a position to access it. I think this was the biggest challenge, and therefore continued with that when the examinations were to be conducted. There was a further challenge actually. See, classes is one thing, one can still go through the books or notes which he already has and continue to learn, and someone in the neighborhood he can discuss with them. But when it comes to writing an examination, if it is not in the face-to-face mode, by coming back to the campus, if he has to write exam in an online mode, there are still challenges. I think therefore this is a mixed bag. I think we must understand the reality in the ground situation, and therefore when UGC announced its guidelines, there were a lot of flexibilities that were there. So a student who is to graduate in the final year, he must get opportunity to write an exam either in an online or face-to-face mode, depending on state, university, location, etc. And if it is not feasible, then provide him a second or a third opportunity so that he should not be left out at the end of the day. This is one part. But the future, I'm also now talking about certain future things, and then come to some of the AICT initiatives as well. So future thing is going to be something like in the next couple of months or maybe even 5 to 6 months, this pandemic is continued to be there. And therefore, how do we engage our students in the classes? How do we do it in a manner that it will not further spread and widely? And for that, wherever possible, this online business should continue. But wherever not feasible, how we can get students in smaller numbers and stagger the timetable. And maybe 2 days in a week, one batch will come, another 2 days. I think we must be totally now innovative. There's no way other than being innovative. Maintain social distancing, keep classes maybe starting at early 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock till late 8 o'clock night. And then the number of students coming, number of batches coming should be completely staggered, by way of which students should not be left out. And there is another model where some of the students who have wherewithal and they can take the classes from home using online methodology, they will do it from that mechanism. And the others who do not have that, they will come to the class. I think that is another model actually. So, and if you can rotate those students, so some students coming to the class every day and some other students coming the next week, thereby everyone will get an opportunity to also mix with other students. I think this is very vital and important for a human being. I repeat, Homo sapiens, who are a different animal other than all other animals. We call them as social animals. And keeping ourselves closeted without having interaction with other human beings is just unimaginable. And therefore, whether it is art forms, culture, drama, dance, music, sports, I don't think you can do it online. Some classes can be certainly held online. Some even experiments and workshops where you can only learn by simulation methods can be done online. But when it comes to even practicals where actual equipment have to be handled, you have to come to the campus. And therefore, we must have a new blended model. And now this blend can be all variety. It's not one cap fits for all. So some institutions will give as much experiments as possible through online methodology, and where it is necessary to get students to actually work on the laboratory experiments, they should be brought to the laboratory as well by rotation. I think these are various things which we will have to address immediately as far as the colleges and universities are concerned. As far as the government is concerned, there is a big role, and there is a committee of cabinet ministers which has been appointed by the Prime Minister to how we engage our people in the post-COVID era in terms of, I'm talking about education itself. Whether we have reached every nook and corner. Governments of the day, right from last 70 years, we talked about taking roads to all the villages, subsequently electricity to all villages, and this government proudly announced just about a year back that the last village in Nagaland is also electrified, and electricity has reached. But still, has electricity reached every home is a question. Actually, that is also to be addressed by the government. But at the same time, every village also should have internet connectivity. Unless that is there, a student who is there closeted in his home, he will not be able to access to the material that we have. But there are some alternate mechanisms which government had developed. We have this Swayam portal where courses which are numbering about 2,500 from the best faculty from all the best institutions of the country, whether it is IITs, NITs, universities, they are all available, all free of cost for learning. For examination, so far it was free, but likely to be charging a small amount later for evaluation purposes. But otherwise, this platform exists. But not alone this one, there is a set of Swayam Prabha channels, 32 channels, through which, to a small antenna of 2,000 rupees cost, one can have all these 32 channels at your doorsteps. Then that can be any remote corner of the country. The only disadvantage in that is it's a one-way traffic. You can only listen to the lectures and view the lectures. You can see the faculty member delivering a lecture. It is something like in a classroom where students normally attend the class and most of the students don't ask any question. It is something of that sort. But when it comes to Swayam, which is a two-way traffic, you have discussion forum, you have online lectures where students can also interact with the faculty member. It's an advanced way of learning. But nevertheless, instead of advanced learning, at least some learning is required. And I think that is where the Swayam Prabha channel even today is going to give us all that benefit. But I think the real benefit comes when a student gets a doubt in that spirit of inquiry. If it is not satisfied right at that moment, he will lose the interest. And that's why two-way communication is what is very, very significant and important in the immediate future. So government has to take up this Bharat net to reach to every nook and corner. And even if every student does not have at his home, there can be some common centers like, you know, CICs, or even I am talking about even temples and religious places or marriage halls, where you can put up one big TV screen and internet connectivity, about 5-10 computers. I think even in one place it is available, our students will be engaged actually, and that is very, very important, significant, to take charge and not be afraid of any pandemic continuing or not continuing or something else coming up later. Also, we will be squarely addressing those issues. Now, I have told about that, and then some other important thing I am appealing on the behalf of myself and the entire organization is that some of the students do not have these devices. See, internet may reach those places, but do students have those devices, whether it is PCs or laptops or smartphones? So I have appealed to NASSCOM, who have told me that every year they change over at least about more than 500,000 computers and laptops, because they take the new ones, and the old ones are not bad. They are still functional. They are willing to donate them to each village. You know, there are 6 lakh villages. Every village can get one good computer with internet connectivity to continue the education on one side. For individuals, my appeal to people from all middle class and above families, which are about 30% in our country, all of our homes, you search, you will have 5 smart mobile phones lying idle here and there, because we would have changed our mobile sets at least in the last 3-4 years, 4-5 times. And once a new model comes, we are attracted towards that, and we have the wherewithal to buy that, so we buy it. The old one, if you throw it, it is an electronic waste and also an environmental disaster actually. Instead, if you give it to a library as a donation, even if it is non-functional, fix it. You spend about a couple of thousand rupees and then hand it over to a library. The poor and needy children of the schools and colleges can be given these devices for getting, that content. And as far as the content delivery is concerned, we should appeal to all the data, people from the telecom industry to give to those students who cannot afford free of cost, that is their CSR actually for that matter. And government always gives direct beneficiary transfer money. Why not give money also if required? You know, if the companies are not giving, there may be a plan which will cost about 400-500 rupees a month, a direct beneficiary transfer through their Aadhaar account to the individual who needs it from that low income group. I think these are the facilitations which we have talked to the committee headed by Dharmendra Pradhan, which government is doing. Now, coming to AICT, soon after this pandemic broke out, the first and foremost thing which we did was to create a helpline. We created this within 3 days, and I'm very happy that it is like a matchmaking platform where students who are in distress, whether it is in terms of accommodation, food, transport, medicine, healthcare, psychological problems, any type of problem, they can pitch their problem on one side, and on the other side, institutions, NGOs, and individual philanthropists who are willing to help, that they were also invoked onto that platform. And depending on the town, city, village where you are, a student just keys in his name and the the name of the location, he will get some 10 or 20 hits who are ready to help. So it is this matchmaking which helped a large number of students in the first 3 days of the lockdown itself. Many people wanted to have food because their canteens were suddenly closed, mess was closed. Someone had a problem of going from one place to another place. A lot of restrictions were there, so the transport to be provided. Someone did not have accommodation itself. I think various challenges were addressed in the first 3 days onwards. We had 2 hackathons already successfully conducted, which is Ideathon, and the other one was called Samadhan, both of them for solving problems related with the pandemic itself. And interestingly, many of the institutions have come forward and helped the nearby villages and regions in terms of whether it is creating sanitizers in their laboratories and then distributing them, whether it is creating masks and giving them. Special masks were created like PPEs. Then there are ventilators manufactured in the workshops using 3D printing machines and given to some of the local hospitals. I think people have simply come forward to help in all possible manner. And government did it some part, but the entire citizenry, the way they have been evolved and then did it was a phenomenal exercise in itself. And this can become a, in fact, case study for management education subsequently. You know, IIMs of the world and the Cambridge and Oxfords of the world should study how a nation which is not so rich, you know, it's still a developing country, can you know, take the challenge squarely and then address those issues, not just by the government, but the NGOs, the individuals, they all helped each other. I think this is a phenomenal thing which we should be able to look at. The other hackathon which is ongoing is the drug discovery hackathon. This came as a request from the Prime Minister's office himself, said that, you know, this still for this virus there is no solution. Everyone is claiming here and there are tests going on. But please remember, for any new discovery of a drug, it normally takes 7 to 8 years minimum. And how do we compress that time schedule and then bring it out within 1 year, not only for this pandemic exercise, but even in some future disease or any such virus which will come up next. I think we should be geared up, and a period of not even 3 to 4 months should be sufficient to address that issue. So there are 2-3 very important things in this hackathon, which is a multidisciplinary one, where you will have students of chemistry, biology, botany, zoology on one side, medical sciences and pharmacy. It's a little more advanced people on the other side, and then students of computer science and IT, because most of these require identification of a right molecule, and there are millions and millions of molecules. We do not know for COVID-19 which molecule is going to be most effective, and therefore there are software which are available, and I'm very happy all the software companies, they have provided their software free of cost for all students who are going to be engaged in this hackathon. They will get an opportunity to experiment with that, and out of those millions of molecules, they can close it down to about, say, first about 10,000 to 1,000, and in the third round, when we have some 1,000 odd molecules, which are the most potential ones for addressing this particular pandemic COVID-19, maybe in 100 or 200 institutions we distribute and say that you test five molecules actually on the field, actually, by creating that molecule and experimenting it on the virus, and then come out with the most ideal, most robust solution for this particular pandemic. And having learned through this exercise, when we have tens of thousands of students of all these 4 or 5 domains, they have gone through all this exercise. Any future drug discovery, in fact, for our pharma industry on one side, for our research in various types of CSIR labs, we will have people who are well trained, and any future requirement will be addressed very, very easily. I think this is another area which we have been addressing. And tomorrow itself, our 4th edition of the hackathon is going to be launched by the Honorable HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal in the morning at 9 o'clock, and at 4:30 in the evening, Honorable Prime Minister is speaking to all the 10,000 students. And this hackathon this time, which is the 4th edition in the row, which has about 400 odd problems from the central government, problems from different state governments, problems from the industry, including small, medium-sized industries. They are all being addressed as a challenge by young undergraduate students. By solving them, they will be able to provide out-of-the-box solutions to these challenges and problems. And these are all from various very important areas like water resources, whether it is environment, whether it is transportation, whether it is railways, problems of ISRO, DRDO in terms of surveillance and security on one side, the terrorism and how to avoid that, empowerment of children, women, the trafficking which takes place, how do we identify and check that immediately before it even takes off. I think the problems are absolutely very interesting, and students are working on them. And the 4th edition, as I said, is very important because we used to have this hackathon in a physical space. We used to have 48 centers in the last 3 hackathons, where students from different parts of the country who are shortlisted used to go there. physically by traveling by train and flight, and then for 2 days, 36 hours non-stop, they used to work there in that college. This time travel is not possible, and therefore what we are doing is students will work out from their respective homes or respective colleges. The teams will work from the respective places. And how do we do it? Now we are using this technology, and that is where I'm coming to how technology can enable you. We have developed a platform, very interesting platform, where there are virtual centers. The earlier 48 centers, this time we have 40 centers. So each one of these centers have one or two problem statements of one or two ministries or the industry which are going to be addressed at that point. Those students who are selected to solve those problems as shortlisted group of students, that is teams, would have physically traveled earlier. Now they are virtually connected with that particular center. And then the mentors, one from the industry, one from academia, will also link with those respective teams from the same center, from their homes actually. And then the jury evaluators, who are again spread all across the country, maybe from Assam to maybe from Delhi to Chandigarh to Chennai to Karnataka to Pune, they will all get again linked depending on who is allotted which team. And they will all do online and therefore instead of non-stop 36 hours, we are taking this time 3 days, because there are issues of connectivity and all those things. And at the end of 3 days, from 1st, 2nd and 3rd, we will announce the winners on 4th or 5th once that evaluation is over. But I think the power of technology, which I was talking about during the pandemic, AICT did not stop any of our activities. I will give 3 concrete examples. Number one, I have already told about Helpline, the helping of students. The most important thing is faculty development program. We have introduced in our curricula all the modern and most emerging technologies like AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, 3D printing, robotics, AR, VR, blockchain. All of these are very, very significant and important for future jobs. So if these are introduced in the curriculum, faculty needed to be trained. Till last year, for the last 1.5 years, we used to conduct our faculty development program in face-to-face mode, and we could accommodate at most 50 faculty in one particular location because they had to travel, they have to be provided accommodation, food, etc. Expenses were there. And we trained in the last year with 185 programs, 9,600 faculty. And pandemic did not stop us. We used whether it is Zoom, whether it is Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom or WebEx platform, all 4 platforms, depending on which is more useful, we could train out of only just less than, that 185 was last year, this time 85 programs. And we could train 18,000 faculty members. More than double the faculty members were trained and less than half the programs conducted. You can see the efficiency of the order of 5 times actually. And these are all 5-day programs. It's not just about one hour session and all that. 5-day programs, faculty from IITs, NITs, and even foreign countries. Because this is again another advantage. You can chip in a faculty from US or Europe or any other country like Japan or Australia as well, because it's only online. So they can also come and deliver a lecture for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, discussion forum, and solving of some exercises, giving them assignments to the faculty, and interaction amongst themselves also. It is a full day, 5-day program. 5 days, all full. Not 24/7, of course, but 6 to 7 hours a day. And at the end of that, after conducting an examination, certification. I think this is a phenomenal thing which has happened. We had universal human values and student induction program. First 3 weeks of the freshman year, we don't want students to engage in the classes, but we have 3 weeks of intense, various types of activities, starting from yoga, exercise, games on one side, discussions, and various types of talks and expert lectures, visiting nearby historical and geographically important places, visiting to industry, watching some inspirational movies. It's going to be a highly engaging 3 weeks program. And how do we engage students? Every 20 students by one faculty. Now the faculty have to be prepared for that, and so our faculty development programs in creating those values among students. Ethics, which industry always talks about, you may have excellent knowledge, but unless you have values, ethics and honesty, it is all useless and futile. And therefore we had this exercise of conducting faculty development programs. Again, we have trained 9,000 faculty through about 20 workshops in this last pandemic 4 months period. We have examination reforms workshop. The examination papers, which were all the time used to be only on the basis of rote learning, we have graduated upwards in the terms of Bloom's taxonomy, understanding, application of knowledge, synthesis of data, innovation, creativity, how all these elements can be brought into the question paper. I think our question papers are getting transformed. It is not based on rote learning, but having all variety of education which is necessary to really understand whether someone has done it or not. Then comes the internships. Online internships, where physically students were not able to go to the industry, so industry mentors were helping students through the internship portal. We have an internship portal, we have a NEET portal, National Educational Alliance for Technology, where a lot of software tools from startups to big companies, which are AI based, personalized learning exercises which are available, and they were all charging a fee of 4,000-5,000 rupees per product, and for every 4 product bought by 4 students, 1 seat was free for our disadvantaged sections of the society, whether economically or in terms of SC/ST. And that during this pandemic, all of them came forward and gave it free of cost. Please imagine 4 lakh students got that training, they got certified. And if the value of that product were, otherwise they were charging 4, 5, 6,000 for different products. If you multiply by all these 4 lakh students, it comes to 250 crore worth of help which AICT was able to render through those companies to the students. I think I can go on, and I would like to stop here, and subsequently, whenever there are some doubts, questions about present exercise that we are doing, the new national education policy, how it is empowering our citizenry, what transformation it is bringing out. The Kasturi Rangan committee has done phenomenal job. Actually, I think one of the revolutionary, policy which has come after a gap of 34 years. And I think I would like to speak about that also whenever there is a time for that. But today it was for pandemic and post-pandemic. But how our new education policy is also going to empower our skill development, connecting it with the general education, and how we will create Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think that is what we need to go to. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm very happy and excited to know that AICT has played such an aggressive, ambitious, proactive role in tackling the pandemic and the various the new ideas and innovations, innovative ways of using technology, of using advanced learning and the spirit of engineering technology, and to reach out to the students. I can totally understand when you said that when we have a good infrastructure, good servers, and good faculty, a good part of the battle was won. But we faced another problem. The second part which you shared, that the students did not have bandwidth, Wi-Fi, and in the interiors of the country. So although our faculty rose to the challenge, and in less than a week we were ready with online technology related classes, the student end, we faced a problem. So, like you said, sir, there is so much to discuss and so much to understand. I will now move over to Dr. Sangeeta Sengar and ask for her thoughts and her views on how do we proceed from here? Where do we go from here in these times?
Thanks, Aruna. Thank you, Arunaji. And Dr. Sahasrabuddhe has very beautifully summarized the whole education scenario post-pandemic. And I have nothing to add to that. But before I start, I come from Jharkhand Rai University, which is a private university, and the challenges which we face are very unique because we are in a tribal area, and most of our student strength they come from the tribal areas, rural areas, where the technology will be used. So, but in the post-pandemic or during this time, our faculty members, our staff members, the students also rose to the occasion, and actually they adapted themselves, and that's the beauty of the whole thing. And I'm very happy to discuss this because here we are talking about how can we make lemonades out of the lemons which we've been given by the God or nature, whosoever. It's a very beautiful topic you've taken. And I would start it with a very positive note. I would see a very positive aspect of this pandemic, as Professor Sahasrabuddhe would agree with me that AICT, UGC, all the universities for last 6 to 7 years, we have been talking about how to actually embrace technology for better education pedagogy. we've been talking about blended learning, we've been talking about virtual labs. IIT Madras has already worked on virtual labs where the good resources can reach out to the rural students where the infrastructure is scarce in the government universities as well. Blended learning because best of the faculty members, best of the teachers as from abroad also, from anywhere, they cannot go to the rural areas and give lectures and cannot impart education. But using this online education, those good lectures, good education can reach out to the rural people. And there's so many MOOCs, there's so many more things which we've been talking about, how the embracing of technology would help education and how it will help in equity and inclusivity, but we were unable to do it the way we were thinking, the way we were planning, because there are lots of reservations among the faculty members, among the all the stakeholders, among the parents, among students. Ki theek hai, kar lenge. We were just delaying it further and further, and because of this pandemic, when the push comes to the shove kind of a thing, we had no option but to embrace it. And that's the most positive thing which has happened during this whole time. And another thing is what we see from here, what is the future of education from here, what lies ahead, as you've said, this blended learning is there to stay. Of course, we cannot, this online education cannot replace face-to-face education. A teacher-student relationship cannot be replaced by a full online education or technology, but yes, it can always strengthen the relationship and can strengthen the learning within the student. And that's the reason this particular thing is there to say this transformation has already happened, and there is no reversal of this I'm 100% sure on this. And especially with this new education policy coming in, where the focus, the emphasis is on technology for the right reasons, this is there to stay, and that's the most positive part of it. And that's life may have given us lemons. Actually, we have, in education, we have made a lemonade out of it, and it is there to stay. And next thing, when we are talking about our university, which is, I told, is in a tribal area, and our challenges are unique. As a strength, I would say, I'll talk about my university now. As a strength, I would say that we were already trying to embrace technology, which helped us, because that was we did not have to just do a total transformation there. We were already trying to adopt it. And second was the biggest strength was our mentorship program, our student-centric approach, because every faculty member were given 10 to 15 students as a mentees. Every faculty member was acting as a mentor. So that there was already a connect, was a 1:20 ratio, or in some cases 1:30 ratio. So every faculty member, every staff member, when there was a time when they had to rise to the occasion, they only had to cater to those 25 to 30 students. That made our life much easy. And second was discipline. We had a very established academic systems and a campus discipline. So within a framework, whenever there's a new thing, we come out with new idea, there was always a culture that people would try to adopt it within the framework without trying to go against it, or with, of course, a constructive criticism. That helped us a lot, because when there was a time, suddenly there are no classes, students are not there in the campus. Then it happened suddenly. And one fine day morning, we are realizing, oh, bache to hai nahi, now what to do? Now we knew that we had to shift to online. And that sudden change is very difficult. Now it is easy when you adapt it. But one particular day, there are lots of reservations. Arey, kaise hoga, kaise nahi hoga? The first questions which came to us was, we do not have a platform where we can work upon. And second challenge was, oh, students are all in rural areas. They don't even have laptops. Many of our students do not have laptops. So then we all sat together and realized, oh, that these are big challenges, but we really had to overcome them. One thing was very sure in our university, what we had decided, that academic calendar, whichever has been made pre-pandemic also, has to be followed till the end. We will not deviate from that academic calendar. That was a policy decision which we took the day we knew that, look, we have to find a solution to it. So then we called all our faculty members, and the best part in our system, in our I would say organization structure, is that every faculty is empowered to take decision within their framework. We have a decentralized system where the decision making does not happen from top to bottom. Sometimes it flows from bottom to top also. That really helped us, because we only had to give them a framework. See, this is an academic calendar which has to be followed to the T, and these are the UGC guidelines which we cannot deviate from, and how to work towards it. Initially, when there was no platform and students did not have the access to the laptops, to the internet also, our faculty members, they started recording their lectures and posting it on the WhatsApp, sending WhatsApp to them, and then fixing a time, making a group, fixing a time and telling them, oh, whatever questions you have, please give back. And the mentors were full time ready to act as a bridge between the teacher and the student. That really helped, because even if the students did not have access to internet bandwidth, there are times when the bandwidth is there and they can download the lectures also on WhatsApp. And we did not go for a very high quality lecture. When we began, we actually started with audio lectures, then moved on to the video lectures. Now we have a Moodle platform in our university as a whole. So what helped, because students could download, and sometimes the student, they really had to travel 1 kilometer to download those lectures also. That was a challenge to the student, but we were aware. All this feedback kept coming back to us. Okay, these students are facing these problems, this particular batch, and then we will come out with a solution accordingly. And that mentorship program here helped us a lot. We knew and we could discuss problem even if it was by 1 or 2 students also. We could find out, oh, these 2 students or some 2 students are facing this problem, how to find a solution to it. And faculty member would come back with a solution, because they knew that it is their job, they have to do it, because there is nobody else who's coming in helping them. We told them very clearly that it is your responsibility. Credit goes to you, blame also goes to you. They were more than happy to take the credit for whatever they did, and actually they did a very good job. And we could find, and we had to sometimes tweak the timings also. कि वो वहाँ पे इतने बजे तक इतने बजे light नहीं होते. There's no electricity during this time. So we really had to find solution to many such problems. And finally, at the moment, we have a Moodle platform where we can interact with the students. But yes, internet bandwidth is at the student end is a very, very big challenge. Of course, government is aware of it, and there has to be solution to it. Unless that solution, since Professor Sahasrabudhe is here, unless that solution comes, unless we are able to handle that, we cannot move ahead with the online or technology embracing this thing. That is one of the biggest challenge which we all together, as a university, as a government, or as a society also, we all have to come together and find a solution to it. Because so far what we are trying to do is trying to take care of one semester, and next semester is online, we are aware, and we've already tried to find solutions to the same thing. And the biggest thing, I would say, as a university, we are very happy to say that we have overcome this problem, and we are ready to face the challenge, take the challenge head on. And yes, our faculty members and everybody is totally geared up for that. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Savita. So I completely concur with you that for the last few years, many of us, at least in the smaller rural areas, have been trying to get on board with online teaching and online learning. But this pandemic changed it for us at one stroke. And now we are at par with anywhere in the world. As Sir pointed out, we are probably doing an as good job as any of the developed countries in the world. I know exactly what you mean by having a bandwidth problem and a rural India setup, because we have a college in rural India. And we adopted the same method of having a mentor and using WhatsApp. So now WhatsApp being such a popular medium with student community, we used it to our complete advantage, just like Hamdu spelled out. And I realized that students were able to, and we were able to keep in a connect and have an inclusivity going on and a communication channel ready, in spite of not being face-to-face. And no doubt face-to-face teaching learning will never lose its place, but technology can be used to its fullest. And I am happy to note that rural India as well as urban India has managed to reach a certain level of being productive for the students. I move over to Meher. Meher, tell me, what do you think? How do you see the next few months unfolding? We have a lot of student community who have heard now the academician speech. We would like to know from the industry experts, from the industry practitioner, as to where do you think the students need to work towards to move on better in these challenging times?
Thanks, Aruna.
Meher, it is not audible. You have to switch on your microphone probably.
Yeah, hers, she's muted. You muted yourself.
Oh, green wala hai upar mein.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, really sorry, Aruna. 1 second. Very sorry because hold on, I'm hearing a. 1 second, 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I can't hear you when you can hear me, so it'll have to be a one-way talk. But anyway, thank you, Aruna, for inviting me here. And really sorry. I mean, we all talk of technology, but you can see that technology doesn't always work. But anyway, I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you, and it's really wonderful to hear both Anil and Savita. I'll talk a little bit. I think a lot of points have been covered already. But let me first start by saying this too shall pass. Okay, nothing stays forever. You heard Anil talk about the Spanish flu, which was our pandemic, a huge pandemic in 1917. It passed over. Yes, many people were affected, many people passed away. The same thing we're facing today. It's extremely terrible for many, many families. But the good news is this too shall pass. But I think we're also living in a world where, number one, technology is very different to what it was in the early 1900s. Look at the way we're all using social media. Look at the way all of you have used WhatsApp, made most use of it in a situation like this. We've been able to send so many messages for safety, on what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, just purely by using social media. Working from home, which I'll come to a little later. Technology in terms of our own business, we never really used the power of remote monitoring. And I think for the first time, we're seeing that we can actually remote monitor many of our equipment. And it has a huge potential going forward. For the first time, we actually commissioned a boiler sitting in Pune, remotely. Now, again, one never thought that would be possible. But I think necessity is the mother of invention. And so human beings come together and find ways to solve problems. Innovation, again, which Anil spoke about. Normally, a vaccination takes 7 to 8 years. I mean, we're looking at a year, less than a year, for a vaccine to come out. I think that's incredible. So I think there's a lot of innovation that's taking place in the world. Also, people are coming together. There's a lot of collaboration that I'm seeing. Normally, people worked in silos. But for the first time, I think people are coming together to say, there is a problem, how do we solve it together? Even you guys talked about the whole issue of laptops or iPhones, smartphones availability. I think so many people are coming together to help NGOs, to help academics, in order for students not to be able to lose time and to continue with their education. I think the third is the opportunity for the new normal, which everyone talks about. We ourselves in the company have formed 30 groups to reduce costs. And you can look at every single cost this time, where you're looking at rentals, you're looking at no traveling at the moment, or less traveling as we start, reducing carbon footprint and enhancing sustainability in the world. So there are lots of advantages that will come out of this. Coming back to working from home, I remember 2 years ago, we were talking to HR and saying, why don't we try this work from home concept at Thermax? And a lot of people said it can't be done. It can never be done. And so, I mean, here we are today. We're all working from home. It may not be to the best of productivity because, as you rightly said, not many people had the right equipment at home. So overnight, we had to help in terms of getting the equipment. The software still is not up to the mark. The speed of the internet is not up to the mark, but still we are managing. And I think that's phenomenal. And I think going forward, this could become a norm in terms of many people who are millennials, especially today, don't want to get up at 8 in the morning and swipe in at 8:40 to say that, you know, we are here, or to work from 8 to 5. They prefer working at 12 o'clock at night. As long as you are able to complete your output, what difference does it make when you do it? So I think the world is going to have to change in terms of looking at an output or an outcome-based approach rather than just inputs. Also, I think this work from home, the reason we wanted to try it 2 years ago was to have many more women participate. I think today and going forward, it is really working from anywhere, and therefore women who probably have just given birth or have small children today can work from home, can work for a few hours of their time. You can have contracts with them, again, output based. So I think there's huge possibility. Talent can be seen very, very differently from all over the world. It doesn't have to be people have to move to Pune in order to join Thermax. Tomorrow it should be you can work from anywhere and you can contribute to the organization. I also think thanks to the lockdown, there's been a lot of learning. I mean, look at the number of webinars that we are attending. Your own education system, I think, has completely changed, moving to online and hopefully now moving to blended learning. Because we help a couple of NGOs, Akanksha, Teach for India, who are in primary education, school education. And we're seeing the way it can change in terms of scale, how many more children you can actually reach out to. And in terms of also reducing the number of teachers. With less number of teachers using technology and using blended learning, you can reach out to so many more kids. So I think it's in many ways a blessing in disguise for many things going forward. And once again, I would say that this too shall pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Meher. I loved your line, this too shall pass. And this is something we have to remind ourselves about this. What I liked also that you're telling us that even in industry, in a manufacturing industry, it is possible to work from home. And typically it is not the clock in and clock out time that is of value, but of value is of what is the output, what is the outcome, and it can be done piecemeal basis. And this can also encourage a lot of women to come into the workforce without having to worry about travel and time schedule. You rightly pointed out, up till now, we were all working in silos in our very, cards held very closely to our chest kind of approach towards working. This pandemic has taught us now to depend on each other, and we are learning together and sharing resources. The most important part is sharing of the resources. So, many thanks for your outlook. I go back to Dr. Sarasoburde, and I have many more questions on this, but let's say that today we are saying work from home. Most of us living at home, work from home was once touted to be very glamorous. But it's affecting the emotional well-being of employees, it's affecting the family relationships, it's also intruding into personal space, developing a sense of uncertainty and insecurity. So, sir, as a person at the helm of affairs, how do you maintain the sense of belongingness, the trust, the togetherness, and the positivity and the team spirit in your organization? Sir, over to you.
No, I think as far as my organization right now, AICT is concerned, we had less of a trouble. The reason being, except the first, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the first lockdown period, when we were asked to be away, very few people we came to the office. But subsequent to the first 3 weeks, in the next 3 months, we have been regularly working from our offices, and therefore, though not full, therefore one-third, employees coming, some 50% officers coming. So thereby we are continuously in active, involvement with the organization plus with each other. We have a general, small chat here and there. So I think we have kept our morale high. One or two cases of COVID-19 also came up in our offices, and we had to ask them to stay back at home naturally for about 3-4 weeks and then come back. So those things we continued, and basically keeping confidence, of the people. That too will pass is the most important statement. This time will also pass. This is only a temporary measure. Don't worry. That is the spirit with which we continue. And my appeal to all the colleges who did not have that pleasure of working and going to the colleges is each faculty member, like Madam Savita rightly pointed out, with a faculty counselor or advisor, or whatever you call by name, a mentor, a facilitator. I think they must have some 20 telephone calls of students actually. So I think if you have a linkage of 1 to 25 or even 30, weekly once, if you call those students when they are at home, send their WhatsApp messages, I think that morale will remain high and social connectivity will continue. And as soon as we start off, as I said, education can never be only online. Let us be very, very clear about it. The faculty members, the physical institutional spaces are bound to be there and will be required. We can only offset some part of it through online. The online's advantage is your college may not have an expertise in a particular area, but that person is available in some other university who is giving online lectures. We make use of that. I think that is the strength and power of technology. But if you don't come to a college and if you don't have a drama, you have different actors, the director, and some cultural function where orchestra is there. You can't have on 10 laptops. So we sit there and one will play something. That will not be creating the same effect as the real effect. Secondly, as I said, human beings, the interactions and then understanding each other will be very, very powerfully possible only when we meet each other and talk to each other. Even I have found, if we have various committee meetings, etc., which we do online, if I have met him sometime in the physical space sometime earlier in my life, and then I talk to him on the online. Now, Arunaji, I know you for such a long time, so I feel the same strength now also. But had I not seen you ever, I know Meher also, because I was in College of Engineering for 9 years, Thermax, I have been visiting quite some time, your mother, and then Teach for India program. So I'm aware of all of that. So I can connect very easily. But had there been a totally unknown person, I think we will not have the same feelings and same type of exercise. And therefore, coming to the institution, having discussions in the canteen, in the offside, sitting on the garden, I think that is wonderful, and that is what creates a human being. And that is why I think post-COVID, whatever is there, that is required. And today, since we are missing all of that, the technology again should be used to the extent possible. I don't say that it is an exact substitute for that. One phone call, probably even once in a week, to those 30 students who are attached to a faculty member will make a big change actually. He will be fully confident. And then as we say that this too will pass. So I tell every student who is worried, I receive at least hundreds of mails, every day 300-400 mails, and I almost reply to every one of them. Maybe it is a one-liner which I reply, but I will reply to them. And that is what is the connect actually. Even the connect through social media, connect through email is also very, very significant and important. And tell them, students, that this is about 6 months to 1 year. In the lifespan of a human being, which is supposedly 100 years, but at least 70, 80 years we live actually. Most of us today live 80 years. About 25, 30 years ago, our life expectancy was around 60, 65. Today it is 75, 80 plus. I find all 80, 85 people plus people so active as though they are of 30, 35. And therefore, this I learned from Dr. F.C. Kohli, with whom I worked for 9 years. At the age of 96, he is so active. So I think our life expectancy has increased. So in that long span, this 6 months is a small stretch, 1/100th of the whole period. So please bear with us. This nature will help us. Environment will help us. We will overcome one day. That is what is the secret.
Thank you, sir. I completely agree with what you earlier mentioned. Human being is a homo sapiens, and we were meant to be social animals. So this is literally just like a small break in the interactions that we have personally, but having used technology to its fullest advantage, we can still be a connect. Thank you, sir. Savita ma'am, what are your thoughts on this?
I totally agree with what Professor Sahadrade is saying, because face-to-face interaction cannot be totally replaced by an online, especially in education. It can, of course, supplement. We can make use of the technology for reaching out to the resources. It helps us in equity in education, but it cannot replace, because एक गुरु और शिष्य का जो संबंध बोलते हैं, the relationship between student and teacher, mentor, which cannot be taken away by the technology. So then it becomes more of a very robotic thing rather than a human. And another thing which I would like to add on the flock together as a leader, I think, because same in our university also, students were not coming, but we had enough physical space to call faculty members on roster basis, not everybody daily, but roster basis. At least they come thrice in a week, so that there is a connect, because only on telephone you cannot understand what they are going through, because most body language is also equally important. A phone where you cannot understand what is going on in somebody's minds, and especially when they come here, when they see you very positive, showing up every day as a leader, and not even thinking about pandemic, not even a single negative thought in you, your body language, your demeanor, everything makes a lot of difference. As a leader, if you are able to show up very positively, very confidently, that this too shall pass every day, your people will pick that only from you, and the same will go to the students through the faculty members and through the mentors. And this is the only way to keep the flock together, by meeting them and keeping that positivity very high with your own body language. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say, oh, be positive. If you are positive, your team members are going to be positive with you, and that the same message will go to the students through them. And if we are in touch with each other, either through telephone, and understanding issues, problems, challenges each faculty member, each student is facing through this time, and we're able to discuss it, that keeps everybody together, and that keeps the trust high. And what is the insecurity in education? That, oh, you will lose a job. So they know that if the students are there, students are positive about it, the university is going to run, and they're not going to be any loss in jobs here. So once that confidence is there through, as a leader, through you, I think it's very easy to keep the flock together and positive also.
Thank you, Dr. Savita. Yes, you mentioned face-to-face, which we in our Indian culture call Guru to Shishya, teaching and understanding and sitting with each other. What the Guru speaks, yes, is one thing, but the body language that the Guru maintains and communicates in a silent language, that is what actually reaches out to the team. Meher, what are your thoughts on this? Work from home. What was called glamorous earlier now seems to have different repercussions and different outlook to it. How have you and how has your team reacted to this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I completely agree with both Anil and Savita and you, Aruna, that we are social beings, whether Indian or overseas, anywhere. I think human beings are social beings and we need to come together. There is no way that we can stay in our homes and continue either education or work forever. I think there has to be a blend of both. Today, technology enables us to use it in the best possible way. So how can we use technology as an enabler, not as a substitute? So even at the workplace, I think working from home, especially for a manufacturing company, probably 20–30% can do that at a time. There is no way that many people can do it forever. So I completely agree with that. But just coming to the sense of belongingness, you know, we've already started, as you know, manufacturing has already started for the last couple of months. And so we had to build in a certain amount of trust in people that it was okay and safe to come back to work. And so we actually came up with an in-house app, which we put together, which shows that we are taking care of hygiene, that we are taking care of safety, so that employees could look at that and say, okay, I know that this company cares and that it is safe to go back to work. And we did many different things. Communication was the most important. So there was constant communication right from the very top, especially in smaller groups with their own bosses, just to know that, listen, we need to be engaged with each other since we can't see each other. We need to be socially connected even though we are physically distanced. So how do we do that? So we maintained communication at all points in time. We in fact started with an open forum where we addressed people's concerns, people's anxieties, as well as anything to do with the company. Also, we made the order of priority of the way we are seeing things very clear. We said the first and foremost will be health and safety of our employees. There's no going away from that. Number two, we will look at cash flow. Number three, we will look at order booking, and so on and so forth. So it was very clear to everyone that the number one would be the safety of our people. Every morning, we have our people who have to fill in a self-declaration questionnaire, just 5 questions, just to say that everyone is well in their home, because we are as safe as all of us are safe. If there's one other person in the home who has a cough or a cold or a fever, you can't take a chance and then come to work and potentially infect other people. We also made it known to them that, listen, if you are honest and you tell us that this is what it is, we will not penalize you. We're not going to cut your days of leave. We're not going to cut your salaries just because you can't come to work because somebody is ill at home. So I think giving that confidence to people and making them trust you and you trust them, I think is really important. And in 1 or 2 cases, we have had people who have falsely declared it, who have come to work, and we've had to close the whole factory down. We've had to get people tested. We've had to do many things. And we made a case study of it, obviously without putting the name of the person, but we made a case study of it and said, listen, this is what one has to go through if you are not a responsible employee. And so many things like that. And then, of course, in the beginning, we found that mental health issues, Aruna, as you spoke about, were really quite high because people cooped up in tiny flats with too many people in the house, children, small children, no help, having to do everything yourself is a huge different way of living, and it can get to you. And so at the very beginning, our HR decided to bring in 2 counselors who have been at the beck and call of any of our employees whenever they have any anxieties. We've also had we've also introduced right now, in fact, on the 1st of August, tomorrow we're introducing a health app developed by a set of doctors in Pune. And it's to do with health, fitness, good food, mental health, everything together through an app. And so I hope it's going to be of help to all our employees going forward. At the beginning of COVID, we also introduced things to get people engaged. You know, we found some of our people stuck at sites. Again, something that is horrible. I mean, what do you do over there for so long? So we introduced things like yoga and Zumba and Bollywood dancing and cooking and all sorts of little things to have people engaged with us. So I think it's just everyone coming together to try and see that people feel good, people are not anxious, people feel trusted, and that we're all together in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an actually wonderful thing that you pointed out, that what Thermax has been doing, that you have a WhatsApp system where you actually communicate with each other and address concerns, address each other's insecurities, and that you have set up 2 counselors who are going to talk to anyone with any anxieties. The most important thing I picked up from you is Thermax has pointed out to all its employees and team that health and safety comes first. So that is very reassuring. The cash flow, the order books and all can come later, but health and safety is a priority for Thermax and whole team. Thank you.
Aruna, if I could just add one more thing, which I thought was really phenomenal. You know, when we talked about reduction in and looking at our cash flow, it was so lovely because we invited our union to participate, both in Baroda as well as here in Pune. And they themselves came forward and they said, please take a cut because this is our way to help the organization. We had to do a salary cut for our employees, our white collar employees. We started with 20% going down to 0%, depending upon the grade. But here the union themselves came forward and said that, you know, please take a small amount off, and this is our way of helping the company, which I think is just phenomenal.
I think it's phenomenal, and I think it speaks for the leadership and what your father, Mr. Rohinton Aga, and your mother, Anu Agi, and the legacy that you have created in Thermax, that people believe, trust, and belong to the organization. And it's the union which came up with it, and you did not have to create a mandate and put it down top down. So I speak that speaks for the. I'm at a loss of word because I have great respect for Anu Auntie, for you, and for your father.
And for the team.
And for the team, obviously. Yes. So how much of our organization do you think we need now to reboot, to revamp, and to reskill? Everything prior to March 2020 has ceased to exist, and we have created for ourselves a new life. And there are many things which are not going to change. So how has your organization and team adjusted their sails to move into the newer season? Sir, if you could have your thoughts on that, please. If we can have quick thoughts on this, and there are a few questions that I would like to share from the.
I think rebooting both, whether it is economy as well as our educational institutions, is what is vital and important. As far as most of the government departments are concerned, they are already rebooted. The reason was there was a clear circular that with some social distancing norm being maintained, and depending on what is the exigency of the service, you bring in at least 1/3 or half, depending on your context. And that freedom we started exercising right from maybe, as I said, first 2-3 weeks of the pandemic itself. So we have already rebooted. But I'm talking about other institutions who need to probably think about it, depending on situation, context, whether hostel facilities are there, how many can come. In the beginning also I spoke about that, how you can have a blended mode of half the students coming for a morning session, half in the evening session, and so on and so forth. I think that is what educational institutions need to do. As Meherji pointed out, I think all precautions are also to be taken, whether it is in terms of the app, which is already there available in the government sector itself, or individual apps can be developed for all of that, and then how we can continue our lives without getting so much affected. And most important thing is, I think the fear of that corona has to be taken off. Actually, I think the issue is, out of all the people who got affected, there are about more than 85% today already are recovered, and the remaining are in the recovery stage. The death rate is below 3%, and therefore that unnecessary scare and fear also has to be removed. But at the same time, we should not be bold and say that no, I will do anything and nothing will happen to me. I think that kind of a thing is also not equally right. Actually, if you maintain that balance, I don't think there is any problem in rebooting our institutions and the industry and then start working, and economists naturally will grow. But coming to my students, actually, which I would like to always reflect upon is, as I said, this is a small time, will pass. But more importantly, there are huge opportunities which are going to be created immediately post-COVID. The reason is the changes which are happening, and if you are well trained in all those emerging technologies like AI, IoT, machine learning, and so on, then you can become an entrepreneur. You can create a startup, and not necessarily your own job, but you can create job for about 10 people. I think that message our students have to take seriously and then start working on those platforms. There's a lot of money available in terms of angel investors from the incubators, from where you will get the support, but you are to be required to be committed. You have to be passionate. It cannot come as a dose, actually, that you become an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur will come from within. I think that is what encouragement which is required immediately hereafter, so that we create great entrepreneurs creating jobs. But in this pandemic, as Meher rightly said, that they operated or started a plant remotely. This remote controlled labs were there in existence for last 15 years. The first experiment I remember was way back in the year 2005, created in IIT Guwahati. One of my faculty members, Gogoi, he did in an electronics lab remotely controlled from another PC by sitting in another place. And if you look at virtual labs of IITs and NPTEL, which you talked about, College of Engineering Pune also has several virtual labs which are all connected. And I'm very happy that this pandemic helped students to continue to do laboratory experiments as well, both simulation-based experiments and virtually controlled experiments, and both are possible. I think this is one. And then our processes, AICT gives approvals to all the colleges every year. And these are some 300, 400 new colleges, and existing ones asking for more seats and so on and so forth. We used to have a physical movement of the institutional heads to our offices for verification of the documents, and subsequently, if they were in order, we were visiting the colleges as the inspection team. And there were lots of charges of corruption during that time, because 3 experts who go, there are stories that they will ask for an envelope and all that. So this particular pandemic gave us absolutely transparent, corruption-less process. That is, everything is on the Microsoft Teams, and we give about 10 users, 3 experts sitting in their respective university or colleges or homes, wherever they are, and institute getting some 7 user licenses, and they are all stationed in different parts of the institution. Our expert will ask, show us the library. In fact, time is also less. In a physical exercise of moving around in the campus, you have to travel. You have to either walk or take a vehicle in a 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer campus. Here they are already stationed there. They will show the library. They will show the computer science department. They will show the workshop. They will show the library books. They will show the faculty rooms. Everything is visible on the platform, and everything is recorded. Please remember, everything is recorded. The question asked by the expert, if it is answered by the institute and shown by the institute or not, is recorded. If the institute tomorrow claims we showed and they have not recorded, that is also visible. So I think absolutely transparent, corruption-less system has been evolved thanks to COVID. I was trying for this last 2 years, asking ISRO to provide me a camera which will be stationed there, which will take the entire, along with GPS coordinates. Today we have GPS and latitude, longitude available on the mobile. During the visit, they will also be asked to, at random places, check the latitude, longitude. This time, 2 institutions where latitude was different from a degree was rejected. We have 1 degree several kilometers. So that means they were showing the facility of another institution for getting an permission for a new institution. I think all of that is avoided. I'm very thankful to COVID that way, blessing in disguise that we have been able to innovate on that front.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Completely running out of time. Dr. Savita, your thoughts, please, in the next few minutes.
I'll be very quick on this. For as long as physical distancing norms are concerned, yes, as a university we have to follow, and we are preparing ourselves when the students come back on campus, which we are not expecting before December or January. To be honest, when they come back, we are gearing up ourselves for that, and we'll have to face it when it comes to us. And as long as other aspect is concerned, teaching learning is concerned, our core area is what we tell our faculty members: what is your core area, what is your core job? It is following an academic calendar, facilitating students in through learning, and following your curriculum. These three things, they do not change, they remain the same. So core is not changing, it's only the mode with which we are doing is going to be changed, because earlier it was majority face to face. Now the technology is going to be added to it, not 100%. And for one semester we have to make use of technology to impart that education. So core is not changing, there is no change for them. It is just the technology they have to adapt, and that's only a mode of imparting education. So as long as the core is not changing, there is nothing to worry about. So for us, that's what I'm trying to tell my people. It's business as usual. It's just that we have to adapt the technology to do the same thing which we've been doing it for years. There is no change in that. Our core area is not changing. So that helps us a lot in adapting technology and going forward with a very positive note. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Savita. Over to you, Meher. Next 2 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. I think a continued focus on health and safety. In fact, I hope people, I've seen so many of our people starting to exercise for the first time. Keep out time for that, looking after their health, eating well. I really hope that continues, and we would support that to continue. Second, I really hope for the first time men in the house have been helping their wives and have understood for the first time what women go through. And so I really hope men, sons, the boys in the house will continue doing that, because I think it's really, really important that you do your bit. I feel, and on the work front, of course, technology and digitization definitely will continue and evolve. Innovation, I think this gives a huge opportunity for anywhere talent, as I mentioned earlier, and anywhere learning. And of course, a huge opportunity in terms of cost. And on a very lighter note, I think people will also start enjoying their gray hair and gray beards like Anil. I love it. I think it looks so nice. So we've all forgotten how to dye during this time, dye our hair during this time. And that's a wonderful change.
Thank you. Thank you. We've completely run out of time, so I am sorry, listeners. I'm not going to be able to take up the questions for now. I have to thank Dr. Saraswati. I have to thank Dr. Savita Sengar, and I have to thank Meher Padambi. So it was an excellent morning in terms of learning and understanding, and to see how everyone in their position are so proactive, aggressive, ambitious, and not waiting for things to happen to us. So people who are in a leadership position, when they are confident and know how to grab the bull by its horns, it instills a lot of confidence, and it makes us feel and think that we are in some good hands. And now with the education policy coming up, there is so much dynamism, and that there's so much to be learned. I love how we have been able to use technology as an enabler and not as it cannot be a substitute. And the Guru Shishya tradition will and always continue. But the human element, the worst situation, the worst pandemic, the worst challenges have brought out the best in us as human beings, as human elements. That at this point of time, we are there for each other and we are helping each other. So on this very positive note, I must say that although we have had lemons thrown to us, we have all learned how to make a good lemonade with the right amount of sugar and the right amount of salt. And I am grateful to all of you in your senior positions for having shared your thoughts this morning. Thank you from me, and thank you from Team Hope Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.